Perfect. So this is number 3 of our AI chatbot panel discussions. Let me see. Oh, I can share now. Awesome. Okay. Sorry, guys. Please bear with me just one more minute. Okay. Okay. So this is part 3, where today we're going to be discussing opportunities of our SWOT analysis for our AI chatbot panel discussion. We also have another session coming up this week, and where we're going to also be going over threats, and that'll conclude our 4 parts. So we have a wonderful panel set up today. If you want to keep in touch with us for seeing what's coming up and some other things on our calendar and the great things that we're working on with NEDLA, please feel free to check us out on our website at nedla.org. You can also find us on LinkedIn or Facebook. We are a registered nonprofit organization. We've been in operation for over 25 years, and we're a local chapter of the U.S. Digital Learning Association. So just a little taste of what we have coming up. We've got some great events. I'm personally very excited about them. I think you guys will like them as well. We've got our the next, like I just mentioned, the threats coming up this week, and then we've also got a fantastic session about audio engineering and preservation of a lot of like audio type assets from a world-renowned studio engineer named Kelly Pribble. He works with Iron Mountain, and that'll be on 5/4 on Thursday of next week. And then following that in June, we're also having a summer K-12 professional development session, which will be great. It's actually going to be a day-long conference, which will be lovely. So if you know of anybody in K-12 who might be interested, it's going to be really great. We've got Web3 discussions about how to use that in education. We've got stuff that spans the art and music, and talking about the arts and music, and talking about space science in different types of classrooms. We've got Civil Air Patrol that'll be there. It's a really wonderful lineup. And we also have a sound healer and yoga instructor who will be doing the breaks in between to help us with strategies and experiencing a little mindfulness ourselves, but also things to take back to our classroom. So feel free to check it out and pass it on. We also have Upstrive, who will be presenting with us in July towards the end. So be sure to check that one out as well. They're a wonderful group that talks about measuring like effectively impacting employee engagement and different strategies to make sure, you know, everybody's maximized and feeling their best. So they have solutions for education as well as business, which is excellent. And of course, we'll be doing stuff with our annual conference and other monthly webinars. So feel free to check back and check in. This is some of the information about Kelly Pribble and his session coming up. So please feel free to mark that in your calendars. It'll be 7 p.m. on May 4th. And you can register for that event on our website, nedla.org, if you're interested. And we also just want to let you know that our NEDLA membership is also available. So how it works with NEDLA is our sessions are usually paid sessions. But if you're a member, you get into everything for free, and it's an annual membership of $100 per person, or per year. So please consider that if you like what you see and you think you might be interested in a few different things, that's a wonderful opportunity to get some great sessions from different experts and people from different types of fields. Many of our events, of course, this includes our annual conference, our K-12 conference, absolutely everything on the calendar. You also have access to recorded events, and the professional development opportunities come across all different types of aspects of employment and domains of interest. So that kind of works out well too. There's also great virtual and face-to-face networking that we'll be setting up throughout the year. So check back for that too. And we're launching a members only web forum that we'll be able to access through our website. We're going to be releasing a newsletter to keep everybody in contact with all the cool stuff that's happening with us, but also with USDLA and other things in the area. And there are sponsorship opportunities and additional professional development opportunities. So before we kick into our session, I'd like to introduce our moderator who's going to be moderating for the next 2 sessions for us. Will be our president, Dr. Doug Koch. And he's got some really great art here. I'm absolutely loving the AI theme in his one-shot as well. So let me pass this on to him so that he can continue as well. So thanks so much, Dr. Koch.
Slideshow. Okay, I guess I can do this. Hold on a second. Let me share screen.
Oh, cool.
Oh, yeah, I got it.
Cool.
Okay. So this is an AI picture of myself because I thought it'd be kind of fun. And it's kind of a little disturbing because it's changed the color of my eyes and given me lots of extra eyelids, I think. Anyway, which as it often does, and fingers. As Dana had mentioned, I'm Dr. Doug Koch, and I'm the president of NEDLA, and I'm here to be the moderator today. So I'm going to go through and just briefly let everybody introduce themselves who are on the panel. So I'll start with Dr. Bobby Baggio. Let her say us a few words about herself.
Hi, folks. I'm happy to be here. I enjoyed last week. I think we had some really good discussions. I'm Bobby Baggio. I had a book that came out this year called AI at Work. I've been studying AI for a while, and my real love is technologies and education. And I'm just really happy to be here. I'm happy to be here with all of you folks, and let's have a good discussion tonight.
Great, thank you. And Dr. Susan Suarez.
Hi, I am currently an English teacher in Baltimore County. My dissertation research was based on AI chatbots in English composition courses, first year English composition courses. And so I have really strong affinity for AI. I think really super interesting. And just to echo what Bobby said, like this has just been a great opportunity, just been a lot of fun to discuss where we've been and where we're going with AI. And it's really, I'm just really excited to be here. So thank you.
Next, we have Shivy Williams.
Hi, so my name is Shivy Williams. I am an instructional designer from Royan Cabarrus Community College. I'm also the Center for Teaching and Learning coordinator. So kind of like everybody else said, I've really been enjoying the conversations that we've had the last two sessions. And I am also very happy to learn from other people on the panel. So I'm looking forward to this session as well.
Next, we have Thea.
Thank you. I'm Mattia Marquardt. I'm the Assistant Dean for Online Education at Columbia University School of Social Work. I've been working in education since 1997 and in online education and training since 2008. And I helped launch the online MSW program, Masters in Social Work program at Columbia in 2015. So I love tech and education and training, and it has been so fun, just to echo everybody else, to have these conversations on this panel. So it's like a little reunion because we had last week off. So I'm excited to continue the conversation.
Continue the conversation. Looking forward to it. Next, we have G. Mick Smith.
Hello, this is Mick Smith, a doctor of digital, and I'm associated with Amplify Labs, and we're very interested in AI and machine learning. We have one of the projects that we're doing really for K-12 individuals, for students who want to see themselves as part of, let's say, the House of Pooh and the Wizard of Oz, but it puts the kid in the middle of the story, which is a great idea. And then there's also some back-end work for administrators in universities and colleges. We do custom software and everything else like that. In any case, I'm not going to do an AI generated picture because I'm going to end up looking like Dr. Koch. It's kind of like Johnny Depp, but well, not so bad. Good deal there.
Thank you. So let's jump right into the questions. So for the panel, and I'll let anybody jump in as they want. So how may AI chatbots change the face of corporate employment and the meaning of employment in general?
Well, one of the things that AI can do really well, any chatbot, is all the boring, repetitive kinds of things. So in terms of corporate employment, I could see a lot of, let's say, HR possibilities for it. So if you're going to onboard people, if they need to get access, and having a chatbot there to help them through that onboarding process might be very helpful. And also in terms of training, corporate training, being able to have a path or a way for a employee to advance in their career and advance in the company. So I think those might be some possibilities for that. The employment in general is one of those things, well, There are Luddites out there that say, okay, well, there go the jobs because now chatbots are going to replace everybody and everything. But I think it's just in the larger scheme of things in terms of technology, it's just a constant turnover. So whenever a new technology comes about, there are new possibilities that are created. People have to sell it, people have to make it, people have to maintain it, people have to involve themselves in chatbot, just like any other technology. So the longer term employment, I think it's going to work itself out, even though there are some people are a little bit frightened at this point.
Yeah, I'll jump in. As of, I think it was 2021, over 60% of corporate employees were working with a chatbot of some sort on their job as a personal assistant. So whether it was HR, whether it was customer service is probably the largest domain. But that's a lot of the workforce then, and certainly in the last 2 years, AI has done nothing but pick up speed. That already have AI as part of their job. I can't see that doing anything but getting more intense and continuing. I see HR courses springing up on how to interact with AI. And I think we're going to see a lot more of that actually. The meaning of employment in general, I'm kind of with Mick on that one. Whatever is coming next. I do believe you're going to see a lot of redefinition in expectations and redefinition in performance objectives because of the integration of AI. We've got a long way to go. We call a lot of things AI that is really robotic process automation. It's not AI. And then there's robotic process automation that has AI. So, we've got to define AI first, and then we'll move on to defining the meaning of employment.
I was going to say, I think that when I think about it, and it depends, of course, on which chatbot you use, but for me, just thinking about the question, like, so for, in the past, we've talked about ChatGPT. And so for me personally, I've mentioned before that, like, I have this, although I have like these 2 master's degrees, I struggle with writing. And so it's allowed me to be able to use a prompt, put in, and then to take that to help with my writing. Like if I really want to say something, and then also for my creativity that I just do not have, it helps me to come up with creative topics or like themes as well. So I think there's a great use for it, and even in corporate employment, and kind of going back to HR using, which I completely agree with, where you'll see a lot. But as Bobby said, I mean, chatbots have been around for a while. Like, we go to a website, now we're typing in the chat box, right? They're asking, how can I help you today? Or some other questions. And so I am kind of like, I don't know if it's going to necessarily eliminate jobs as people think. I think as we go along, I see things just helping to improve different situations and different areas of employment.
And to piggyback on what Shivi's saying, first of all, like the writing, the communication aspect is immense, because people can really spend a lot of time trying to get corporate communications together. For marketing, that could be something that takes, again, a great deal of time and effort. And if you can use an assistant to help you just word something that maybe is more professional, or create some text that can go to various different social media, it frees you. And so now you're open to be more creative, and you're able to think more outside the box, because you're not focused on something that's taking a lot of time and obviously like a chatbot could do for you. And I think also it builds confidence because we have like you have the ideas, you have the capabilities, but you just need a little bit more help to get there. And this can help direct you so that you can spend more time again doing those outside of the box things.
Coming from the field of social work too, some of my colleagues are excited that it's automating things is going to put a premium on the soft skills that social workers come with. So some of the things like the repetitive tasks that Mick was talking about, the redefined performance objectives that Bobby was talking about, some of those things ChatGPT can help take care of for you. But the interpersonal relationships, that's not something that we figured out how to have a chatbot take over for us yet. So the just those skills of active listening and having conversations where you're pulling out what people are really saying and building relationships and making connections, those things seem like they're going to become a premium as ChatGPT or other AI chatbots take over other aspects of work.
Great, thank you. Let's go to the next question. So how may this technology redefine and create opportunities within the fields of teaching and learning, as well as academic support services?
If you have a good prompt, I would say this really helps. So I'm going to teach a course and I go to the AI chatbot and I say, all right, what are the 10 things that I want students to be able to do at the end of this course? So I could see it being really helpful in that way and provoking thought and kind of picking up on what we said for question one. It's the creative things that we're always going to have a leg up on the computers and the bots. So that's really what we're going to do. But it will stimulate thought and stimulate conversations, and maybe even within ourselves. So if we have what we would like the student to be able to do at the end of a lesson or end of a course, this allows us to have some way of interacting. And I think there's where the prompt and going back and forth with something like ChatGPT really helps, because it's giving you something to bounce off of. A lot of academics work solely, right? We work, we think we're going to collaborate, but we work alone. So we're by ourselves a lot. And that means that this gives us something else to bounce off of and just get ideas and interaction with. So I think that's really helpful in terms of academic support services and all the things that are related to the teaching profession.
I wanted to kind of mention about the academic support services. I thought about that, and I thought about how, sometimes our students will call a number, right? And they kind of get stuck in this loop of being transferred and then being transferred again, and maybe it's this person. And so I was thinking about, as far as academic support services, maybe possibly like a chatbot could ask the student, a question where the student can give a little bit more detailed information. And then instead of them being bounced all around, and we probably have experienced this with chatbots online, maybe they get down to exactly who the person or who the student needs to speak with, and then they give that student that information that would directly direct them to that person, instead of someone saying, hold on, let me transfer you, hold on, let me transfer you, and then they're just kind of stuck in this round robin of being transferred with no one being able to help them or not knowing who to transfer them to. So maybe that, I kind of see that as being one way for academic support services. And I also agree that I thought about this. I think in one of our other conversations, or something, I had a conversation in the past where we were talking about like instructors basically having to change their questions in a discussion board, for example, right? And so maybe they can, kind of what Doug did was in our first session, the questions he asked came from the ChatGPT. So maybe now instructors can put in questions that are related to an assignment that would be different than what they've had before. And also maybe they can come up with a question that would give them an idea of a different question they could possibly ask their students to answer as well.
Yeah, I'll jump in. I think it's going to shake academia and teaching and learning at the core. I think you're going to see really big changes in what we call teaching and learning and how we evaluate teaching and learning. I think teaching and learning traditionally was done in a way because it had to be done in that way. People had to be face to face. You had to have a group together, and the purpose was to share knowledge, right? To create knowledge, to share knowledge, and to preserve knowledge. Well, we've taken a lot of those things over with AI. Certainly the preservation of knowledge has changed with computers. Certainly this dissemination of knowledge changed drastically with the internet. And now with AI, we're pushing that boundary. I mean, Brian put in chat, creativity, even in the early stages, and we are in 1 second of 1 minute of 1 hour with this AI stuff, Chat GPT and Bard, they already have some creative capabilities. So, I think we're really looking at a redefinition of a lot of what education is and how we do it. And I don't think that's bad, I think that's all good.
I agree with Bobby, particularly on the assessment portion as well, that we're overdue for changing how we assess teaching, learning, right? But I do, where we are right now, we can also use this to help future teachers. So when you're a teacher in training, before you're even ready for the classroom, you can use simulations through chatbots. How would you deal with just randomized situations? You can ask the chatbot to bring you, or have the chatbot mimic a student or a situation that you might be faced with. And the availability of the chatbots is really wonderful, right? So 24/7, if you have an issue, you can, instead of waiting, or instead of just that level of stress and anxiety that comes with working all day, going to school at night, and then realizing afterwards, oh, I don't know what I'm supposed to do for my next step, you can access you can access an AI chatbot to help you with whatever it is that you need.
Thinking about having a chatbot help you with whatever you need, it does seem like we're kind of chatting in the chat about it, that there really aren't that many assignments left that a chatbot can't do for students. And so, Susan, what you're saying about reevaluating how we assess learning, I think that's really important. But also there's like a persuasion element. We have to convince students that it's worth spending their time doing assignments, and we actually have to make assignments that are worth their time, because otherwise, why would I do this assignment when I could just have an AI chatbot do it for me in 5 minutes? I don't see the point in doing this assignment. This is boring. I'm never going to use this in my future work. There's a lot of things that go through students' head. I've got Susan, you were talking about students who work and then go to school at night. I've got other responsibilities. So for us to have that relationship with students, we have to not only come up with things that are valuable, but explain why they're valuable. And I think a lot of times in higher ed, we don't explain to students why we're asking them to do something. We just kind of go with the like write an essay about it and that'll show you know it. But there aren't that many essays that you write in the workplace. So why are we so focused on essays? And now it seems like essays really aren't going to really measure learning if we can't tell who wrote it. So there's just a lot of thinking we need to do, and persuading, and maybe we work with students to come up with assignments that they agree are valuable uses of their time.
So I work at a medical school, And I've been working with supporting some of our first-year students who aren't the typical traditional student that we may have had 30 years ago. So what they're seeking is often more study questions, so they know that they have the foundational material before they progress onto the higher level thinking skills and questions and the clinical courses that they're going to have in the second year. So what I've started suggesting for the couple of them is to ask like ChatGPT to come up with a set of, multiple choice questions at the at the medical school level on a certain topic with 5 distractors, 1 unique answer, and a rationale. So the students have started doing that, and they feel like they feel more secure because of that. They feel that they're able to move on to clinical applications because of that. They feel like they've just got a nice foundation now that they didn't have before. A lot of times they don't have the language down yet of the basic sciences, and they just need that practice. So for some students, in my experience, it's been really helpful to give them that comfort level, that foundation, and really let them move on and go into an assessment, a formative assessment with more confidence. So move on to the next question. How does this technology redefine the meaning of degrees, both academic and non-academic, and the institutions that grant and regulate them? This is kind of a big question.
Well, I'll start us out. I think blockchain has a potential for totally realigning credentialing. We have always kind of kept credentialing within institutional walls, right? And I really do think that with a technology like blockchain, being able to track a person's learning throughout their lifetimes, not with just institutions, but through their knowledge over time. I think it's a tremendous opportunity for us. I think it's going to take a little while to get there just because there are schools out there now working on blockchain and working on this, but you've got to get so many different compartments cooperating to get something like this done. But to me, one of the big hopes is being able to align knowledge and learning between academia and the workforce, so that there's not this gap and this kind of finger pointing, and we can get on to what really needs to happen, which is the learning, and focused on the people. But that's just my thoughts.
I can jump in here because one of the things that have always been a controversy in IT field has been almost exactly what you're describing. What's the meaning of a degree? So a person who's interested in computers, they say, well, what do I need? And what do I need sometimes means a certificate. Sometimes it means a degree. Sometimes it doesn't mean a degree. And so the IT field and computing in general has always struggled with this. And I think students struggle with this as well. And so if you're suggesting that really there are pathways out there using blockchain, I think that may be the way to go. And it would also solve something which has always troubled computing and academia, because even when the computing field started, the academics started to say, well, where does it go? Where does it fit? And it could fit in more than one academic category. And that has always been when it comes to IT computing. So in terms of the questions that refine the degree, yes, by looking at more glasses half full, it's solving a problem that has been around in computing for a very long time and really troubled students because they struggle with, why do I get a 4-year degree when I can get a certificate and Cisco, and that is going to make me a lot of money. And that's the short end of it.
Anybody else?
Yeah, can I just jump in real fast?
Uh-huh.
Read some job descriptions in the future. If you're not familiar with Cognizant does a really good job of projecting job opportunities in the future. Kind of Google them or whatever. Data detect, these are some jobs. I mean, this was back in 2018, so I'm sure they've got a lot more on the arc out there. Data detective, IT facilitator, ethical source officer, AI business development officer, AI assisted healthcare technician, cybersecurity analyst, financial wellness coach, digital tailor, quantum machine learning analyst, virtual store Sherpa, augmented reality journey builder, flying car developer, VC arcade manager, vertical farm consultant, juvenile cybercrime rehabilitation center director, algorithm bias officer, trust officer, smart home design manager, and I could go on. But I mean, if you're going to redesign job descriptions like that, we better think about redesigning the credentialing that supports them.
I'll piggyback real quick on that one. There's a job that's out there. It's the apology specialist, the person who works for a company and then says, I'm an expert in apology. You know, I love it. I don't know what part of what degree I would put that in, but that's a real job that's out there.
Well, you think about it, I mean, 15 years ago, we didn't have social media directors, and social media managers now are making a lot of them, you know, well into six figures. Social media marketing is a big career.
One thing I'm concerned about with redefining academic degrees is I think about MOOCs, which were supposed to democratize education, and now anyone can learn about anything, but most people don't finish MOOCs, and the people who do finish MOOCs are the ones who already have degrees overwhelmingly, because folks who already have degrees kind of already know how to study or know how to finish, you know, that's a kind of milieu that's they're successful in. And thinking about ChatGPT, with the digital divide, and some people have great internet and other people don't have great internet, just thinking about how to not further stratify folks, because folks who have ChatGPT are going to have a lot more opportunities. Your time's going to be freed up if you've got kind of assistant help. That gives you more time to be entrepreneurial or creative. But if you don't have the skills, then you're going to be stuck. And thinking about, Bobby, what you're saying about blockchain, I like the idea that you could get certificates that folks can look back on your blockchain and see, you know, verify the certificates you've gotten, because, you know, do we really need a 4-year degree for some of the skills that we need at work? Do we even really need a 2-year degree? Do we just need a few courses in something and then you can take off and be successful? And something that verifies those certificates can bring more respect for them. Because right now, people don't really know what to do with micro-credentials. Universities are offering them, but workplaces, when they're hiring, they don't really know, like, what's that on your resume? I don't get it. So just thinking about how do we make that a little bit more valuable, and you know, just all the subjects that we're going to need, all these various things for being an apology specialist. That's not, to me, that's not a 2-year degree. That's like a couple courses or something. And or a social media manager, if it's going to be that focused on like Instagram or on visual media, maybe that's not a whole degree. So just thinking about how we can break it up and be ready for the new jobs that are coming.
I agree with you 100%. And I also think it plays right in not only to credentialing and bite-sized learning, but lifelong learning, because degrees come to an end. And I mean, we're looking at a future now where machines are getting smarter. So humans need to get smarter too. You know, we can't just do it the same old way that we've always done it. You know, we need people to learn throughout their lives as the workforce changes.
Do you think there may be a change in the like middle states accreditors? You know, are they going to be needed anymore? Or are they going to change radically?
Well, if you look back, Doug, at accreditation, accreditation in higher education is not that old. You know, institutions like middle states came about in the middle of the 20th century. I mean, they haven't always been there. And it was kind of a cry from folks for accountability, is how these accreditation institutions sprung up. These regional accreditation institutions came to be because prices were going up, and when prices went up, accountability became a question. So, you know, I think, will there be some sort of blockchain equivalent to a middle states that says this is your learning, and this is because you've done this and gotten these badges and taken them from here and taken them from there. This we can account for the knowledge that you have. Yeah, probably. You know, there's probably opportunity there.
Do you think a Harvard will be as relevant as any other school or no school?
I think the top 10% of higher ed will, yeah, exactly, Brian. Harvard's value is in pedagogy. I think that top tier will be around for a while. Forever, ever's a long time. You know, they've been around since 1663. Yeah. Gateways to the 1%. Yeah, and that's exactly what it is. And, you know, it's really more about connection than it is about pedagogy.
Do we think we'll see a change in what a community college means?
If you're asking me, I'll jump in real quick. I hope so. I mean, I think community colleges are one of the most valuable resources we have for letting adults change directions in their lives, restart their lives, get on a path that, you know, they weren't on in a K-12 system, and on and on. I hope that it allows community colleges to be much more successful than they have been in the past.
And they're closest to the people, closest to the ground, probably the best to be able to react as quickly as possible, because the big ships and the big places are going to take them a long time, because it's like the Titanic to get them moving in a direction. However, if you're in a community college, you know what your community is. It's fairly well defined. It's your community. You know who's there. You know what they need. So I would agree. I think the community colleges are probably the best place for change and the best place for innovation, because they're at the lowest level of the community, which means they're closer to the people. The large institutions and the prestigious institutions, you know, they're going to be the last to change because they don't have to. When you come to the value of what's in the Ivies, their value is in their endowment. They have money, and a lot of it.
Exactly.
I think it also goes back to, I think somebody mentioned about the degrees, and, you know, I work at community college. And so now, you know, there we just have more certificates. So if we're looking at those jobs, for example, that need certificates, or do they just need to take a couple classes, right? Usually that happens more along at the community college level, right? So now you are having more students enrolled, enrollment will go up. And so I think that would be a benefit to the community college system. Right. And then the community college can produce students with different skill levels that don't need a degree. So I have my best friend has been, I feel like, going to college forever. Right. And I always think I'm always very supportive of her. And she wants to get her degree. But, you know, you also have those students sometimes where a 4-year degree is not what they're looking for, right? So to go to a 4-year institution is just, that's not something they want to do. So to be able to still get a certificate or to do something and to get something at the community college level could be very beneficial for them without having to go to a 4-year institution where these skills can be gained.
Susan, did you want to say anything about the K-12 world maybe? Or so that you had some stuff in the chat.
Yes. It would be great if, speaking of micro-credentials, if secondary schools can adopt something like that. So I could imagine where when students are pursuing different interests. So rather than necessarily taking a track and sticking to it, because how do you really know what you want to do when you're 13? Being able to try different things, and not, if you don't master it, it's okay. You don't master it. That was something you tried, and maybe you just add that to your bricolage, but something that you do have an affinity for, or that that you can master, you get that micro credential. And of course, it's something that with these things, they would sort of expire, right? Because you have to be current, you have to be a lifelong learner. But it is something that maybe would be able to help them get into a position that's more suitable for them right away, or into a program in a university, which is also kind of looking for different sort of, again, credentials and tracks and such. So I think that it would be wonderful, and even if like universities don't adopt it yet, if in high schools we have that focus, so that definitely would increase student engagement and just equip students so much better for college and career than sort of just taking a whole bunch of different courses that ChatGPT can write the essay for.
How do you think this changes the meaning, or I guess maybe the power of a student? Before you're at the power of getting into the school you want or need to get into.
Yeah.
Does it mean anything anymore?
And it really is a lot of student choice and voice, right? We say this term, but what does that mean? So then you go into something that you really do have an interest for, that you can excel at. And so that just also raises the level of everyone, all employees of all corporations. Everyone benefits when someone is able to do something because they're choosing to do it, and because they really want to and they're good at it.
I'm just starting to look at some of the chats. So I see something from Brian Alexander. Overall enrollment in middle American higher ed has declined steadily in the past decade. Do we think wanting to learn about AI will drive an enrollment boom?
Yeah, I jumped in on that one. I don't think so. I think our problem is price. And yes, I think it's going to accelerate the decline, Brian. I think our problem is price, and I think people have lost confidence. Higher ed went through a serious 2012 is a good date. I think that we went through a serious curve and peak in terms of pricing ourselves out of the market, and we're at a point in time where the population is decreasing. AI is coming around fast, which means we're redefining what knowledge, Doug's first question, we're redefining what knowledge is all about. What is knowing? Is knowing having that degree? Is that what it's about? I think we're going to see a lot, yes, will Cal Polytech and Stanford and schools that are, MIT and schools that are specializing in the intricacies of AI, will their enrollment still be in demand? You betcha. You betcha. You know, Carnegie Mellon isn't going to drop off tomorrow. But you know, for the average school out there, I think it's going to be challenging.
If you're an employee, you rarely will ask a person, what college did you attend? And your question, the subtext of that is, how prestigious is it? Because if you're an employer, you want skills, and that's what you're looking for. If I'm hiring somebody who can answer a phone, I don't care if they went to Harvard or a community college. Can you answer the phone? That's my question. And as a result, what colleges have done is they've sort of missed that. And there's a mismatch between the degree granting institutions, which are promoting their degrees, and the employers who are saying, I want people with skills. If you give me people with skills, I will hire your students. So there's sort of a mismatch there. And I think this is what's redefining knowledge and degree granting institutions as well. What skills can you offer?
Okay, thank you. Let's move on to the next question. So, how can AI chatbots be used to support inclusive teaching practices, such as facilitating discussions around sensitive topics, providing personalized feedback, and promoting student agency and collaboration?
One of the things with an AI chatbot is, although it can sort of emote empathy, it can also be very an objective sort of entity. So you can have more sensitive students can have more sensitive conversations with the chatbot without feeling judgment or and hopefully depending on the chatbots, because of course we did talk about like bias that can get into it, and things do still need to make sure, like we still need to make sure that the conversation doesn't get derailed by the machine learning. But it is sort of like a faceless entity that still feels like there's a connection. And so I think that can be one way. Something else is, I mean, you can ask if you really don't know, if you don't have the proper training for it, or you just have too many individuals that you need to modify something for, you can ask a chatbot to assist you with doing that. And one of the things that I when I was playing around, I asked, I think it was ChatGPT, to rewrite the first paragraph of Catcher in the Rye for a fourth grader, because why not, you know, just to kind of see what, and in Holden's voice as the narrator. And ChatGPT did, and actually did a pretty good job of it. So if you needed to kind of modify things up or down, and you have a class of 30, but you have, let's say, in reality, it's 30 different levels, but let's say like about 6 different levels that you need to hit, you can use that too, to make sure that there is some inclusivity for those who you normally wouldn't hit when you're doing your own modifications. So it's an assistant for that, I think it could be.
I kind of want to piggyback off what Susan was saying. It made me think about in any classroom, right? First, you have to know what your students, who your students are, to make sure that if you're looking at the chatbot for inclusive teaching practices, you kind of really have to know the students in your classroom to make sure it's being inclusive. So if you don't know your students, and even if you put in and say, for example, I just think about different ways and different experiences that all students have, from pre-K, kindergarten, all the way through college, right? And so those experiences are different depending on the neighborhood that individuals live in, depending on how they're raised, also depending on what's going on in the neighborhood. So for example, if you have someone that lives in a neighborhood that is crime ridden, right? Their experience and what some things may not be inclusive for them because it's not their environment. Right. And so that is, to me, is the importance of knowing who your students are, kind of knowing some background of where they're coming from. Same with a student. Exactly, Laura. So same with a student that is from a affluent area, right? So if you have all these students in one classroom, you know, to me, it's very important to be able to, if you're going to use it, and even if you don't use it, you still need to know, okay, how can I come up with different prompts or ask the chatbot for different prompts? And then to me, you can then have like a more collaboration with the students, because maybe you have this prompt and you have a completely different prompt, but these prompts touch different students. And then you have a discussion about each different prompt and how the students would then, how would you go about answering these prompts? So maybe you get students together and they have a collaboration, and then everybody gives an input on this one prompt, right? Because some people from that group would relate to them, and then people from this other group, it may relate, a different prompt may relate to them, so that students get to learn about each other, and even going back to sensitive topics. So I think it's important to make sure we also understand and know our students, right? And then we can maybe then form something that's collaborative, and then ask the chatbot, like you said, Susan, for different prompts for discussion.
I think the biggest point that you brought out in that is that it's not a replacement for teachers. You know, you still have that human element, and for a lot of students, particularly in I'm thinking about Shaker Heights in Boston, and a woman I interviewed, 1,600 kids in the high school, and it's one square block, and that's it. You know, and most of the parents were essential workers, and they weren't ready for COVID, and on and on and on. But the connection they felt to their teacher when she was their English teacher, when she was no longer available to them every day, that was a huge loss in their lives. And you know, I think we have to understand that connection is something that AI is not going to do the same way a human is going to do. So, you know, we can use AI for what AI is good for, and, you know, Jack Ma, and we can use humans for what humans are good for. I do think we have the opportunity to do exactly what you're talking about, and that's individualize the learning. You know, if you have a high school class of 36 students, you're only going to individualize so much. You can only do that to reach individual learners where they are so much. You know, and this has the potential to allow us to reach those people who are not currently being reached.
I'm thinking about the privacy issues around sensitive topics, because it can feel like you're talking with a human when you're chatting with AI, and feeling that, you know, that connection with an AI, I guess I would describe it as like developing a relationship with the AI. Then it can be tempting to disclose and disclose and disclose. And who owns what you disclosed? Where is that going to go? Who's going to, you know, might it be made public in the future? It just seems like, I don't know, I was reading this book, Trauma Informed Pedagogies, over the weekend, and there's a beautiful chapter about community colleges and all the things that students overcome with their resiliency to go to community college. These are students who are facing, you know, violence in home countries, violence in homes, you know, different, you know, crime areas. You know, there's so many different things that students are overcoming in order to be, you know, to pursue their education. And if we're not clear with them, or helping students develop the critical thinking skills, or the suspicion, I guess, of, you know, what's going to happen with your data, they could be sharing a lot, and then ChatGPT or any other AI bot, once you put it in, they can use it for the next thing. We're training the chatbots as we go. And so now someone else puts in write me an essay about this or that. And now your story is coming out into someone else's ChatGPT response. And maybe you find that out later. You look on the internet and there's your story, credited to someone else, or there's just those privacy issues I'm really thinking about when we're sharing sensitive topics. So that's something I think we need to really help students think about and be critical of, because there's some products out there where they're starting to use ChatGPT to mimic therapy, and putting those things in writing, your therapeutic issues, and giving them to an AI company seems like in the future that could come back in a harmful way. We don't know how it's going to come back. So just some caution there.
I never fell in love with Surrey. And what I mean by that, as soon as I heard Surrey, I go, you know what? I can't identify with her. But like many things, the creative people are already exploring these issues. So if you watch some Hollywood films, we've already got those stories out there where the bot-like thing or something robotic, the person or persons have fallen in love with. So I think what you're saying and identifying is the creative people have already addressed that. And I think it's us, the educators, to find the solution to solve that problem, because it's definitely out there. It's similar to when the internet first came out, or as we observe what the internet is. People can hide behind their computers, and then they can also push information out through a computer that they wouldn't necessarily do in person. And I think it's just sort of accelerated that problem, because with a chat bot, it's going to be out there and it might come back in another form. It's going to bite you in some way.
Okay, let's move on to the next question. Unless anybody else has something else to say. Okay. Oh, it's going off. So, as AI chatbots become more prevalent in education, what are the potential implications for students' ability to transition effectively from the classroom to the workplace? And how can educators ensure that students are adequately prepared to engage with human, and then it's off my screen, colleagues and clients? So we're thinking about that transition from, theory to practice. What opportunities may there be?
I'll try the question that I addressed earlier, or I brought up, saying the apology expert, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm an employer and I have a person who comes in an entry-level position, that's definitely what I'm thinking of. That person may not have the big picture or understand where they're going, but I think educators can help and assist students to see that. So even though they may be at a lower level or an entry level, we need to be finding a path for them, because certainly this is what employers do. A person may have an entry-level position, but you're always looking. So the standard rule of administration is, for every position I have and I've hired somebody, I'm looking for 2 replacements. And by that, I mean either somebody from the outside or somebody from within the organization. Educators often can be doing this and helping students to see that bigger picture and that path, because they are going to have to make that transition. And hopefully a person sees that if I came in at an entry level, there are opportunities. The better companies are looking for that. And there's where your HR departments come into play, because they are looking for people and they're hoping that they grow, because everybody knows it's the hardest thing to find an employee, to train an employee, to retain an employee, because they want them to stay and we want them to stay. So educators, I think, could be helping students to do that, to make that transition easier and helpful for them.
I would just jump in and say absolutely, Nick, and turnover costs money. It's that simple. Turnover costs big money in companies. I think to how can we as educators help? Let's not be afraid of AI. Let's embrace it. Let's understand that it's here. Let's have the discussions about it, have the discussions about privacy, have the discussions about how does this stuff operate? This is not just a black box. This was engineered by humans. It's here to help humans. So let's talk about, what's behind it, what's driving it, transparency in the algorithms, demand some legislation here in terms of, what is good, what isn't good, what's going on, how things are done. I could just go on with this stuff, but I think there's a lot of opportunity there for us to teach people to embrace this tool and to understand that it's not magic. It's not a black box. Somebody needs to be watching the shop.
And to your point about not being afraid of it, when educators are afraid of incorporating it and teaching students how to use it, students will use it anyway, and they'll use it in ways that may not be the best. They're in secondary ed, they don't have executive function yet, right? It's not really that great. They have some, but frontal lobe isn't really fully developed. So it's what's the thing that's going to get me the dopamine? What's the thing that's going to let me finish this so I could get on to the next thing? But instructors really do have to model how to use it, when to use it, when it's appropriate, when not to use it, but also to ensure that there's still collaboration in the classroom, that they're able to work with their classmates, their human colleagues, and use the chatbot if they, depending on the lesson, when it's appropriate to do that. But it's I think it was, I'm not sure, I think it was Brian who said, like, people need to know how to actually do things. And the students do, and it's great. Then sure, know how to write a blurb that's going to be used for, this is an example, like a business communications class, how to write a blog post that can also then be turned into just like a quick tweet and whatever else, Instagram. But eventually you won't have to do that all the time, but you should know what it looks like, what a good version looks like, so that you can make those effective choices. And one of the things I had mentioned in one of the earlier conversations is I think it's also an opportunity for students to experience, oh my gosh, this is my age. Like, I've lost the word for it, but when you give someone else something to do, because, oh my gosh, wow. When you just give someone else something to do because you have other things to do, and so that person can do it. So the same thing with learning how to do that with a chatbot. So this is something I don't need to do right now. I can give this to the chatbot, but these other things are things that I do need to do, and how you can incorporate the information, evaluate it, see if it's something that is good for you. But again, really making sure that that human interaction, that collaboration is in the classroom. It's extremely important, and they can work together on products. They can use ChatGPT to help enhance or to brainstorm. But again, we have to, as educators, we have to model how that looks, and model the evaluation of it and its full implementation and use. And we can't do that if we're afraid and we're not letting them bring it into the classroom, and we're just letting them do what they want to do without really understanding how to use it.
One thing that we can do, and I totally agree with, we can't do this if we're afraid to do it. But as we transition students from the classroom to the workplace, we could be coming up with assignments that are more applicable to real life. So if students are doing internships, maybe creating assignments that bring things from the classroom into the internships. In social work, we do that a lot. Or if students are not, is there something that they care about? Do they have an entrepreneurial project on the side that they could be using an AI chatbot to help create marketing materials for? Do their parents have a business, like a small business they're trying to promote? Are they part of a club that could use some, marketing copy being generated, and they can test it out? Will their classmates come to this event with this chat GPT marketing copy, or will they not? What was wrong with that copy and nobody came to their event, or what worked well and attracted people to their event? There are, thinking about helping them really apply and have a chance to test out in the real world things that they're learning in class, I think can really give a bridge. And I know when I was going from college to my first jobs, I had to talk about what did I do in college that had anything to do at all with a real job. Almost nothing. But you had to come up with little stories about what's the real world point of. I was an English major, and so I then didn't really use Shakespeare or Dickens in my jobs, but I had to come up with ways that I had skills that I learned in college that applied to the workplace. And we can help students bridge that if we actually let them practice in their assignments.
The
Yeah.
answer of what you do with a liberal arts degree, because liberal arts background, is anything you want. And by that, I mean, you can speak, you can write, you're articulate, and you can apply yourself to any field and anything that you would like. So, I'm going to put in a little bit word for the liberal arts. They're still valuable and they're still worthwhile. And I've done everything I've wanted.
And I don't think you need to understand or puts in chat, even the people who create AI, think of it as don't understand the black box. You don't have to understand this at a neural network kind of level, you just need to understand how generally it works. What are the parameters? If you ask the same question, I used to do a chatbot workshop, and if you ask the same question to 5 different or 4 different or 3 different AI networks, you're going to get 3 very, very different answers. So, where's the connection? Why are the answers so different? Why does Google come back with one thing, Siri comes back with something else, and ChatGPT comes back with something totally different? Why does that happen? Having the understanding of why that happens is real important to knowing how AI works and how it can work for you moving forward. I think that you don't move forward by saying, oh, well, we're going to keep doing the same thing we've always done, and we're going to outlaw the new technology. I mean, how many times? That's been going on for a long time. That's not where we need to be. If we kick this up to authentic assessments and we kick it up to authentic learning, what's authentic? Authentic to who? Authentic to the learner. That's the key. Not authentic in that it meets some kind of APA standard, but authentic to the learner. That's how you move forward with this.
Does anybody else want to jump in on this? Thinking, what about like professional societies? Does their role really change? Like a licensing body for social work or osteopaths or something like that? Do they have also the opportunity to have a greater role in the field?
I'll jump in real fast, Brian. I was reading what he said. Licensing is a good question. I think it depends on the agency's ability to adapt. I think we're going to see big changes in all of that. I mean, that's just my 2 cents worth.
I think
And then,
licensing bodies are also facing the same questions that we're talking about. I know in social work right now, there's a national movement around the licensing exam, which, it's state by state, but pretty much in every state or every licensing exam for the licensed master social worker, the who passes is determined by or is correlated with race very heavily. So the white test takers have the highest pass rate. Then Asian is next. Then I think Black or Hispanic is next, and Native is below that. So when you see test results like that, there's something wrong with the test. We have not figured out how to evaluate someone. It's not that there's something wrong with the test takers, but we're so used to multiple choice exams as the best way to decide who's going to become a great therapist or who's going to become a great whatever kind of role. And we in social work, we're really pushing and reevaluating that. And I think folks in the past thought, oh, essays, that's the way to go, but it's clearly not. So we really need to think about, I mean, do we need an exam at all? If you got a master's degree, wasn't that a demonstration that you learned things? Do you really need another exam? So, what counts as Bobby was saying, what counts as knowing? What counts as a demonstration that you learned something or that you know something? And something like an AI chatbot can really be a catalyst to help us think about this and shake things up a bit.
so is it maybe more about the person's ability to make connections and support an individual who needs help, supporting them to make the right or the decisions, some right decisions, versus being able to pass that potentially very biased exam.
Mhm.
So here's one last question. It's kind of looking forward a few years. So the year is 2050. What doors have opened to improve the lives of formerly marginalized communities, and how has this changed the way we rethink our society in general? And I welcome anybody in the audience also, if they want to move from the messaging chat to take off their microphones. Feel free to speak up or speak out.
As I was really thinking about this question, but I think it goes back to something we talked about earlier, which is degrees. And when Susan talked about bringing this kind of technology to let's say middle school, high school. So, there are a lot of, I guess you can say, individuals that are in marginalized communities that don't go past, or not even a lot, but there are people that don't go past high school, right? And so now, to me, there's like having a high school diploma means absolutely nothing, right? And so if we were to take these this technology and then we go back to the community colleges, or even in high school, if they're being taught these new skills, then they would bring these new skills into the workplace. And, my hope is that they would be able to have better jobs and make more money because of the new skills that they have. That's just one thing I thought about how, and it doesn't, from the people that are in marginalized communities, to just better their skills. And my hope is, of course, for better job opportunities.
I think, my 2 cents worth is reach. If you look at the reach of education now, and I'm going to use China as an example. Everybody's got a smartphone. People who there was no education available. There was no structured systems available. Now people can take classes online through their smartphone. There's education available. I think the real, it is a huge question. I think the real question there, it goes back to something that somebody brought up earlier, is, we have an opportunity here. We have an opportunity to close the digital divide and give people individualized learning that meets them where they are and helps them go where they want to go. We have an opportunity. We also have an opportunity to make that digital divide bigger, right? And make the differences even greater. So, it depends on how we look at the perspective and what we as human beings want to use it for and want to do with it.
I saw a hand pop up and I don't see it anymore. So I apologize for losing whoever wanted to speak up. Feel free to unmute yourself if it was somebody. Oh, the hand was you. Brian, feel free to unmute if you want.
Sure. Thank you for the offer. I think it's a huge question, and Doug, is this question specifically applying to AI or about society in general?
Oh, I think to both. A friend of mine is working on his PhD in public service administration, and he's concerned about marginalized communities and how they don't necessarily have access to resources, even though there are libraries where they can go in and have access to a computer, but doing a Google search just gives them a list of resources, websites. Those aren't necessarily tools or answers that mean anything to people. They also don't necessarily have jobs that meet their needs. So does this, as a tool, allow them to create their own at-home businesses so they can take care of their family? Does this allow them to find grants to help support their local communities and improve their housing situation? How does this transform some communities in a way that they would never had before? And then how does society cope with that? I think a lot of people are comfortable with people in the places that they're in. So how does that maybe sudden shift affect things?
That's a really great answer to your own question. I had a few thoughts which I've been flinging into the chat. One, so much depends on what happens with the technology itself. Do we regulate it out of existence or into extreme marginality like we do with nuclear weapons and biological weapons? A huge part of this to think about. C.H. Mason in the chat offers the nice hope that AI could help us create a post-scarcity, post-money. I think they mean post-social caste system as well, reduce and increase marginality. I think in part we have the question of what happens to those. How does AI cause new forms of marginalization? I mean, do we have a kind of elite who can actually use the tool, like we had with literacy for a century, or for millennium, or with computer coding as we've had for a couple of generations? Or do we see people who can't use it for whatever reason? Do they become marginalized and disabled as a result? And it also depends on who has access to this stuff. Laura Sheehy reminds us of the intractable digital divide. Will all populations have equal access to all of these tools to bards, to Bing, to image generators, to movie creators to come, to game creators. I mean, right now, OpenAI made ChatGPT fairly democratically accessible, lowercase d. You know, anyone with a web browser could fool with it. But what happens when that isn't the case? When Apple releases one that you have to pay for? Laura, she just mentioned, you know, paywalls. That's very easy to do. Man, I hate to say that it depends, but I do, last thing, and then I'll shut up. CH Mason's point. This is potentially such an enormous ball of chaos being thrown at us right now. I mean, thinking about the use of AI for geopolitics, for intelligence operations, for restructuring businesses, for changing romance. I mean, wild cards in play right now, H. Mason, but that's not a universal idea.
Anybody else have some thoughts? No, I don't think so. I think I don't think he killed the conversation.
No, I think that's kind of where the conversation has to start, you know, and go from there. You know, we can't be afraid of talking about all that stuff. We have to bring that up. We have to have those conversations, and we have to keep having them until humanity hears it. You know, it's all relevant. Yeah, absolutely. You know, and we have to have the conversations about access. We have to have the conversations about regulation. We have to have the conversations about, you know, where we go and how we go, and make sure that we're putting humans first, not just technology, more technology and more profit, you know. As we continue to evolve, it's, you know, it's scary, but the other side of that is it also has tremendous potential. Tremendous potential, I think.
Yeah, so do we have people live the lives they want to live? You know, whatever that may be within a certain constraint. You know, do we have a universal guaranteed income? So people who want to can just sit back and go to the library all day long and read. That's their bliss. Versus people who may want to, you know, create these Vicky Mason's all for that. Or people who might want to, you know, bring their home soap company globally, because that's their bliss. People who may want to create, you know, exciting experiences for amusement parks or whatever. People who may want to go out and help people in different ways. You know, do we kind of move to a Star Trek type of way of living, or not?
Well, certainly not by 2050.
Now I know.
Yeah, the 25 years then, but not even that. It's like, it's just not enough time for anything like that. But you know, information, you know, power's in the hands of the people who hold the information and disseminate that information and decide what information is shareable and what isn't. And so, you know, OpenAI starts off as, you know, we're a nonprofit, we're just doing this because of the betterment of society and intelligence and everything. And but then now you have corporate sponsors. So there's always, as long as we're living in a capitalist society or any society in which someone needs to benefit more than others do, we're not going to have that. And we just have to be really, really careful which is why we need those regulations, because again, like, we don't really know how the sausage is being made. We know kind of some of the things that are going in there, but someone's the gatekeeper, and that's not us.
So we only have a few minutes left, and it looks like the questions are still going, so that's great. Maybe this is a conversation we can have again at another time. I'm just loving listening to everybody's ideas and thoughts on this. So, but before we go, I would like to just thank everybody who is participating today and help make this possible. So here's a list of everybody: Bobby Baggio, Susan Suarez, Shivi Williams, Mattia Marquette, G. Mick Smith, and Chris Mason helped out as well. So with 2 minutes left, anybody would like to say some last words? See a hand up, and I see who it is this time. Fran Alexander.
I want to thank you all for having this conversation, because this subject is so slippery and so vast that we really need to have this kind of collective thinking through of where this is headed. We need to do this openly, and we need participation from all of academia. So that's my one thought. I've been hosting Future Transform sessions on this, writing blog posts, giving speeches. I'd love to know what else I can do to help academics think through this and be better prepared. So that's my plaintive request to all of you. Give me some more work to do.
We would love to. We'd love to partner with you and try to explore what we can do. I think that'd be a lot of fun. Yes, you are easy to find. Thank you. I see you right there. In addition, anybody else? Well, I just want to say again, thank you everybody for attending. I really appreciate it. We're going to have our next session on Thursday at the same time, and we're going to be talking about threats. So not as maybe uplifting, but that's part of the process here. So maybe we can collaborate and think about how we might want to do another series and talk maybe about some different areas. So if you have any ideas, just email me or Dana, and we can set something up. We would love to keep this conversation going, partner with other groups, and see how we can help stay at the forefront of all this. So thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, as
Yep.
well.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us tonight.
Do I stop this recording?
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea.
Screen is being paused. Stop share. Did it not record?
It's still recording.
Oh, I think you may have to
Oh, do
You
I?
may have to,
Oh no, I have to ask you for permissions, it says.
oh, okay, let me try.
We're gonna have to edit the end of this video.
Just go back and forth. We do. I know. You do it.
We need to ask Chat AI.
Let's see. Your screen sharing is paused. Okay, I'm stop share. Oh, okay. That's something. Oh, I see now. Okay. You want to stop recording?